Money. The game everyone plays, but few win. Extracting the knowledge from the top 1%. And teaching you the ever-changing rules of play. It's time to level up and take control of the money game.
Let's talk money.
Big money. Yes!
Welcome back to the Money Game. I've got a new friend of mine that I met about a year ago, a special guest today, Ben Gottfredson. How you doing, brother?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on, man.
Dude.
Excited to play the Money Game.
Pleasure having you on. This is long overdue. We got to chop it up on your podcast, Beyond Net Worth, about, like 2 months ago, something like that.
Was a hit.
Hopefully we gave some value there, but now I get to really extract some value from a guy who's just dialed in his space. But we'll get into that just a little bit. This guy met through a mastermind mutual friend of ours, Brody, about 12 months ago now?
Yeah, sounds right.
And just have admired everything you're doing. So for all you guys listening, this dude is a stud. He is the owner of a storage investment company, runs a podcast, Beyond Net Worth. He owns a moving company. Dude's just a great father, husband, just killing life. And so we've got a lot that we can learn in the technical finance space, but as well, we'll jump into some of his principles of life and just how he rocks. But first things first, dude, this is an interesting thing. Obviously, we've gotten to spend some time in like retreats together and get to know each other's businesses and kind of what we want in the future. I feel like what I don't know a lot about is a little bit of kind of like your past and what got you into this crazy world of investing first off.
Yeah, well, really, I think having a service business that took off, naturally you want to protect your assets, right? So I started with a moving company. I was playing football at a small college in Utah. And so I couldn't hold down a normal job. So that's where the moving company kind of turned from like a side hustle to what turned out to be a really in-demand service that not a lot of people have a good mover they can refer to. So doing a good job just kind of took care of itself. We can maybe get into some of the gritty like parts of the origin story too, because there's definitely a plot there. There's a lot of like drama and persistence and no quit kind of timeline. But where you're asking more about investing, I started just with, I realized that I needed some real estate. So I started with a single family home, crammed 9 guys into it. And so I was like, and this was to be fair, pretty good timing, right? Because the market this was in the boom.
So everyone's like looking for a place to rent. It's just, everything's crazy.
Couple months go by and interest rates drop and I have like $100,000 of equity in this house already. So I cash it out, and I'm doing stuff with it. So I'm falling in love with real estate at the same time with my moving company. I'm getting calls for storage. Customers are calling saying, hey, we love your service. Our friends referred us to you, but we don't have anywhere to store our stuff. And I would have to say, no, I don't have any, but I can refer you. So I'm realizing that I'm falling in love with real estate, generally speaking, like as a whole. And I'm realizing that there's this other asset class out there that's going to be way better, that I have a already built-in lead generation for. So I'm basically just going to be funneling people there. There's a
so this
then there's the whole
this for you though, just real quick. This was like I didn't even know this. I knew you had the moving company. I almost was under the impression that was kind of more like your ancillary, but that was like the core business that you were building up, and it just went into the to the storage space. Like you just saw the opportunity to like take a chance on.
Yeah, the moving company was first, right? And I didn't start the moving company with storage investing in mind. I feel like it kind of almost chose me a little bit.
That's cool. That's cool. I want to dive into that for a sec. So you're playing football, like, dude. This is so many people can relate to this right now. Even just going to school, right? Full time. It's like, what can I really do? How do you find the moving? How did you walk me through? Just you see a chance, and I think this is important for people to understand. Like, how did you measure this is something I should start dabbling with?
Well, my strengths obviously like the strong back, but I also had like a little bit of a knack for marketing, sales, and then also like delivering, right? Like putting out a bunch of hard work and sweat. I feel like a lot of people try to skip that these days,
Oh, dude,
which
everyone.
which is a rough move, right? Because everyone wants to skip to they see someone who's been out of business for 3 or 4 years, they want to skip the step of actually doing the work themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty dangerous, right?
Never works.
So, I basically I saw an opportunity with the skill sets I had, the soft skills and the work ethic. And as a college kid, I was just like, okay, I set up my school schedule so I had like Tuesday, Thursday, and Wednesday night class so I could work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday in between practices and games and stuff. And basically just started slating jobs on the days I was available until it got to the point where I had so many jobs that I had to trust my guys, my friends, just my buddies, to go do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the days when I wasn't available. And they did a pretty good job. So pretty soon there's enough sales and marketing and admin work that I can step out of, even the days that I didn't have school, I could step out of it and just pass that off, keep an eye on the quality and things like that.
So when you get into this, I think this is always interesting for people to understand too, did you like work for somebody first and kind of see the model and like, hey, I think I could just do this better? Or did you just be like, I'm just going to send it and start a moving company?
I actually winged it. And I think there's some serious pros and cons, right? Because out of that, honestly, I could have saved myself a ton of pain because I've had to learn some lessons the hard way, right? Like I had to make this up. And so that I probably could have saved myself some time by just, studying, going to work for someone else, or just even like checking into it a little bit. I just wasn't even in that mindset to do that. I had all of the disadvantage of not working for somebody or ever being in anything to do with the industry.
Yeah.
But my customers benefit from it now because they have more of an intuitive experience. So instead of like your typical, like a couple, just to rattle off a couple, like there's typically like this complicated bill of lading. Typically people are guessing really high on their estimates. There's typically like on a cross-country move, there's typically a pass-off to a different company to unload the stuff. And the quality all gets watered down with all three of those things. And so there's just little things that me making it up as far as like what makes sense and never learning how the typical company does it actually benefited us.
That's unique. I think that's a real thing. I feel like you hear about that sometimes. People get like tunnel visioned into just like the way the space has always been done. And it's always kind of a caveat of like, I don't necessarily think it's bad to just like send it. And then as you're hitting roadblocks, then kind of go seek, okay, why the frick are we stuck in this certain route?
Yeah. You can see how other people do it, but you can disrupt a lot better if you have maybe more of an intuitive approach. So that's what we've done.
Dude, for sure. And just kind of even going one step back, I mean, I feel like this is just interesting. You're in college, you're playing football, you just go do this. And I know you do it out of necessity, but there's very few people that even in that situation go think like, okay, well, instead of just getting this part-time gig or working for somebody, I'm going to try to just launch something. Are you, your parents entrepreneurial? Like, is this just always how you thought? Did you do things as a kid? Like how do you just spark, well, you know what, frick it, I'm just going to go build a company?
Yeah, honestly, my parents are ambitious, but they're not very entrepreneurial. So I would say that I've always, like, my personality is very aggressive. I kind of tend to gravitate more towards those things, but I honestly didn't really ever even think about this type of thing until I was in it, right? Because my whole motivation, this, like when you're a college athlete, you're really only caring about trying to do your best at that and just passing classes and just that, you got a girlfriend, you're just trying to survive. You're really not thinking big picture anything, right? Which is one of the downfalls of college. But so for me, to be completely honest, I knew I was going places. I knew I was ambitious, but I wasn't really in an entrepreneur mindset until I was actually running a business. So I had all the qualities of an entrepreneur, but I never had.
You never framed it that way, like that's how I'm going to get it done.
Correct. Yeah.
That's cool. At what point, I guess, as you're starting to do this though, because you're playing, at what point do you start realizing, like, dude, I might have something here. This is working.
Well, I think, probably my third or fourth year of college, and I'm realizing like, okay, I bought this old junky moving truck it was a big box, 26-foot box truck, but it was the year 2000. So it had like hundreds of thousands of miles when I bought it. And I bought it for $3,000. And that one truck made me hundreds of thousands. And so I'm realizing like there is a way that you can really leverage this. And I'm realizing that the demand's coming in for more and more. And I'm doing, some marketing, but very low level stuff, just barely getting our name out there. And that's when it's kind of catching fire. And I really didn't know I was going to take it this far until I graduated. I actually got my dream job in the corporate world.
Oh, yeah.
So I took a corporate job, even though I knew I would make less money. In my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to maybe make less money if I kept my moving company going by day, and I would just take calls on my lunch break and at night, work till like 10, just doing callbacks.
Huh.
And I thought in my head that this corporate job would give me like some knowledge, some experience. And I realized pretty fast that it was a dead end. Like they were not teaching me anything at my dream job I went to college for. So obviously a little disenchanted, and I quit. And then that was the moment that I doubled down. I said, I'm selling everything, and I'm going all in on this entrepreneur lifestyle.
Dude, I love that. It's interesting because a lot of the very, very successful entrepreneurs, sales type people that I know have a very similar part of their story where they were kind of doing the thing, having success, but still had this like, I've got to go taste what the world says I'm supposed to go do. Yeah. And then once they come back from that, it was like just nuclear growth, just explode, because they've now kind of like checked the box, right? I don't want that. That ain't it. No, it's a bunch of it's not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm just going to go double down in this space.
It's about trusting yourself. And that's what being an entrepreneur really is trusting yourself, believing in yourself over what you've been told. And it's kind of sad because sometimes the people you love the most, the people that are closest to you in your life, are telling you, hey, I really want you to go to college. I really want you to go get a corporate job. You really need to get this specific degree for your life to be successful. And you trust in that because you trust them with spiritual advice, with other kinds of things in your life, but you don't realize that you're getting maybe some pretty terrible advice from what the world's telling you.
Dude, that's actually such a really good point. I want to take a sec for everyone to understand what Ben just brought up, right? Like, and I assume you're talking a little bit, teachers, kind of just mentors in your life. As you're growing up, you look at your parents, you look at your teachers, you look at all these people as like, they know more about life or whatever's next for you. Take these classes, practice this way in your sport. But the problem is when you want to go like big from a financial standpoint, most of the people we're taking advice from usually are great spiritual or great life or relationship, or they're really good and can still help us there. But if they don't have the financial results, like it's not good advice.
So true.
And it's hard to like flip that switch of like, okay, mom and dad can give me like good common sense and help me make decisions. But if mom and dad aren't multimillionaires and I want to be a multimillionaire, like I probably got to go find some other people to ask about money in business and careers.
Absolutely. 100%. I see that every day. And when you love people, like your close friends and family, even like sometimes, your in-laws or your brothers, your sisters, even your parents, like you start to try to break those mindsets for them, and you realize how deeply rooted it can be.
Oh yeah. I feel like that's every entrepreneur's bane. Once you finally get the itch and you're like, I want to share this with everybody. And you start catching like all this backlash of like, no, dude, like that's not for me. This isn't how it works. And you're like, I wanted to bring you here with me, but Maybe we just don't talk about this.
It's hard. I'll just tell you one example just because it's like fresh. Okay. So my wife, we have one baby and we have another baby on the way. So she's like in the thick of motherhood, Oof. Right? They're going to be like only one grade apart in school. So she's just fully committed to being a mom, but she also, is having to learn how to carve out time for herself, like just self-development, things like that. Mm-hmm. And what it requires is we have both my mom and her mom on our payroll to help with our daughter and the house and the businesses. And what it requires is for her to let her mom be paid to help so she can go work on herself. And it's really taxing for her because she realizes that this is a benefit her mom never had. Her mom had to stay home all the time, never had any help, never had a nanny, never had anything like that. And so there's all this guilt, but it's like, it really shouldn't be guilt because you're becoming better to be a better mom ultimately. And so I just bring it up because I'm seeing this in
real
my
time.
everyday life.
Yeah. And I don't think, those paradigms, like we're constantly breaking those lenses as you go to different levels, how to scale and delegate and what it really means to become your best version and like what you got to do that.
Yeah.
And it's always on, the person we want to become is always on the other side of things we've never done or don't want to do.
Yes.
But I love that, dude. Kind of just jumping back in. So you're launching this thing. Obviously, I do want to know a little bit. You brought it up. I think staying on this same note, what are your parents saying when you leave the corporate job? You're like, dude, I'm going all into this. Were they pretty supportive? Or they?
At this point, I think the belief was there.
It was pretty, yeah.
I think, yeah, I had doubters. I had haters. I actually had the girl's dad I was dating who kind of like threw a couple jabs. Like, you really think this is going to pan out? You really think you're going to support? I didn't end up marrying her, and so obviously it didn't matter in the end.
Yeah.
But there was a little bit of that. But by the time I was working this corporate job, that was over and my business was blowing up, and my parents, they couldn't really deny it because just the lifestyle it afforded me, the money, like I start, it's ridiculous, but I start paying for their trips and their Christmas presents get a lot better. And like, I had my mom quit her job and come work with me. I gave her a big raise and a bunch of other flexibility and benefits.
That's awesome.
So yeah, they're on board by that point.
Yeah, so they're like, dude, send it. We're on payroll. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, for everyone listening, you're trying to get your folks, put them on payroll and give them a raise. That'll probably win them.
Oh, best ROI you can do because there's no one you can trust implicitly like your mom. So if you can afford your mom, what are you waiting for? Like if you don't think that will cause any issues, that'll be the best business move you could ever make.
Dude, that's actually so funny because we just actually hired my mom, and she for some of the real estate stuff, she's doing some of our commercial like tenant management. And it's so funny because she doesn't know anything about it, but she's just a freaking bulldog. Yes. And just refuses to like let anything go unnoticed. But to your point, it is funny that's a real thing.
And a lot of these, like, it sounds like your mom's like my mom. My mom doesn't realize that if she quit me, she could be a billionaire because she is the most organized, hardworking, leave it all on the field, blood, sweat, and tears person in my life. And I'm, fortunate to have her. But the truth is, like, with a couple of mindset tweaks, she could be a billionaire in like 5 years. That's the kind of effort she gives to what she does. And it sounds like your mom's the same way. Dude. And it's these moms that they give their all to their families and PTA and things like, and their church callings. And they don't realize they're putting out executive level effort.
Oh, so, dude.
Fun tangent.
No, that's super real. That is, we tell my mom all the time, but
yeah.
She's just never had to. And so she did all the thousands of charity things, all that stuff. And it's like, dude, it's so true. Their level of passion towards every project they touch is insane.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Mom.
That's
Love
right.
you.
Good moms. We're here. Mama's boys on the pod.
Oh yeah.
Well, dude, moving through this, obviously, this is where I think it's super interesting. You're building a business, and this is for everyone. I think everyone gets to this point, right? And I think this is an interesting time that I feel everybody needs to understand. You're building the business, creating excess cash flow. You're creating inside the business, reinvesting. At what point? Because I feel like a lot of people break their business doing this too soon, pulling cash out and getting, shiny object syndrome everywhere. And we talk about this all the time, even, at whatever levels we're at. When did you finally decide, because you basically just feel like storage, kind of just came out of the heaven to you. When do you decide, hey, this is actually a really good implement? And at what phase of building this business did you start executing on it?
Well, and maybe we could dive in a little bit, and I want to talk a little about bootstrapping and maybe connect it as well, right?
Yeah,
because bootstrapping a business is basically starting at you're working your way up through every single level of the business, right? So you're giving away the lowest paid jobs, you're hanging on to the highest paid jobs, you're still trading your time for money, right? And I think for me, I gave away the local moves and I kept doing the long distance moves. Then I gave away the long hauls and I just kept the phone and the admin. And then I finally gave all of that away to where I just make very high level decisions. My business is basically coma proof, but it started with, 4 to 7 years of hard work and working every single job and not skipping steps. And then, I was trading my time for money, which is fine. That's how you're probably supposed to do it on the way up. And then with the storage business, I started trading my money for time, right? I started paying people to run my moving company at an executive level. So I could then have more time to learn this new business of storage. And then there's a little bit of a hybrid because I kind of bootstrapped the storage business at first. I was doing all the work. I was figuring out how to work with cities, figuring out how to work with builders, architects, banks, basically banging my head against the wall. I had to go to a dozen banks because at this point I didn't know how to partner with people. So I thought I had to do it all on my own, which maybe we could talk about that too, and the lessons you could learn. But I thought I had to do it on my own. And I was really just having to grit down and go to these banks and I went to 3 different banks and then
So is this kind of you're talking first deal you realize, dude, all these people are I don't have storage, you're going in. You're just door knocking banks trying to figure out how to get this deal done.
The barrier of entry is so high for commercial real estate until you do a deal.
Yeah.
So most people should partner with someone, but for me, I didn't know that. And so I was just trying to, force my way into the space. And then finally, the third banker at the same bank, he took a chance on me. And then we did this first deal and it did, we worked hard, but we also had good fortune. It was an amazing success. So at that point, I'm thinking to myself, I can either do one deal every 3 years with the profits from my moving company, own 100%, or I can partner with people who also want to own storage units, and I can put together a series of deals every single year. And then I need to build out a business. And so on the storage side, I actually hired my CEO first, my highest paid guy, and then we're going to start hiring, because I needed the time. My time is just so valuable. I can't afford to go through every single level. I have to start from the top and then hire everything in between.
That's interesting. I want to just break this up because, dude, you went through, obviously, there's so much that you had to go through and figure out as you're trying to do this deal, right? So you identify, okay, my business is booming. I'm going to go play in this storage asset. You don't even know that you can bring partners on, but you're just knocking on bank stores.
Yeah. I'm just trying to save cash. And
who's teaching? Are you going to mentors? How did you know how to underwrite the deal? How did you start learning? Just YouTube and stuff?
Dude, just the hard way, making it up, pulling up an Excel spreadsheet and just guessing. Obviously I called storage facilities and I was like, hey, how much are you guys charging? And then I would put in like, cause I knew I was going to drum up a lot of business with my moving company. I believed. So I would go and I'd get other people's prices and then add, $50 on top because I knew I could do it. And then I would take it to the bank and they'd be like, this is not conservative enough. And so I'd bring it down and, I had to get help from architects, real estate professionals, builders. So I should have had a mentor, which I do now. I pay for coaching now that I have a legit, real estate investing business. But at the time I was just paying those real estate professionals, builders, nice feasibility guys that would give me feedback. And I just had to do trial and error.
Dude, I love that though. I love that because everybody's got, I don't know, or even when they've got mentors, they just won't freaking move the needle. It's so gritty. You're just going to bankers. They're probably coming back. They're like, because anyone who hasn't played in commercial real estate yet, right? And this, the banks, like, dude, they want to see a really good pro forma, and they're going to, whatever you give them, they don't care. They're going to come back with their own that's based off of their own analysis and market data and whatever. So it's like, I love that you just went and learned taking Excel spreadsheets to the bank.
Yeah, and then you take the corrected Excel spreadsheet that they gave you and you give that to the other bank and you say, yeah, look what I came up with.
You're taking like this guy's pro forma back to this bank and his back to yours, and you're like, dude, I got this figured out.
Yeah. Totally though. Like, one thing I want to emphasize is I'm not this, like, I have a lot of street smarts, but I'm not that genius finance accounting guy. And that should give a lot of hope to those out there who feel like they're not smart enough. You can hire out those geniuses, but you can't hire out a lot of those soft skills and a lot of that, character that may be in you, but you just got to believe that it doesn't matter if you're not the smartest person in the room.
And I think that's a big piece that people try to let go of. But just like you said, dude, you don't maybe ever have to develop the full financial skill set of like that super technical piece. Like you just said, you can hire that out. You can find somebody that plays that specific role. It's more about knowing who, right? Like the who, not how, and just what who's do you need and what skills do you actually need in your puzzle. In most of those deals, what I love about commercial real estate, and I'd love to hear your opinion, is unlike a single family deal, a lot of the commercial, like when you underwrite one well and you kind of understand how these deals work, it's built in for all of those expert people to get paid and for the deal to make sense.
Yes. There's more meat on the bone in a commercial deal.
Yeah.
Way more scalable, right? So like you probably give everybody the same advice. Residential is a stepping stone. So unless you can scale residential to like insane volume, you want to get to commercial as fast as you can.
I agree. And I think some of it just depends on what is your end goal with it all anyway. But I know for us, like we want to push the limits. We want to go build and do some cool stuff. So just kind of just rolling back to your first deal though, it sounds like, did you build these units or did you buy and do?
The first one, yeah. So the first one I had to scrape up all my life savings, everything I made from the moving company, buy the land, build it. And, right now we try to focus on, we do about 80% is our goal for acquisitions. 20% is like new building and developments. And so, we obviously prefer acquisitions just because they're faster and safer, but these developments,
there's a ton of move.
They have a lot more equity in them. So you can make millions in equity a lot faster in a development than an acquisition.
Dude, that's actually unreal. The very first commercial deal you do in storage, not only do you not know what you're doing, have no mentor, don't go buy an existing already profiting one. You went from ground up.
I didn't know how to buy one. I didn't have, I knew that they're not being given away for cheap, so I had to just basically force it. And the crazy part is I built it in a bad location. So location, like we've bought other facilities since then, and all of our locations are like 10 times better than that first one. But that first one, it was like, I just had to get it off the ground because I knew I could funnel people there between our service business and our online efforts and word of mouth. I just knew we could do it. And so, we basically drive the highest rates in town in a bad location.
Wow.
Because we have those better operations advantages.
That's a really unique thing too. I'm sure you hear this term, or you probably listen, or most people commercial will say asymmetric risk and an asymmetric opportunity. And it's so interesting what could create an asymmetric opportunity for you, right? Bad location, you don't know what you're doing, but because you know you have this whole pipeline of people that are always hitting you up for storage, you feel that you have this like unfair advantage of leads ready to go with personal relationships already attached. You just need a place to park them.
That's it.
And that's what I love about this game of business and wealth building is like, you never know what your asymmetric, like outlying advantage is going to be. And sometimes it's just like your existing core competency that's going to play so well into a bigger stage.
Yeah. And it's not just, I don't want people to get like thinking they need to do exactly this, like a moving company into storage units. There's so many other good ideas, right? That you can find things that are in high demand. They're maybe not the most coveted job in the world, but they need to get done. And it's going to roll into a good real estate asset class or a better opportunity. And you can just keep building off of it.
No, I think that's super true. Just kind of circling around to, you went to the corporate round, did this. Most people would not say that moving is probably their dream ambition, right? Or knocking doors, whatever it is. It's not sexy. However, you and I both know lots of millionaires who've done unsexy things really effectively and made great money and then deployed it super effectively. And I think just such an important message, just what people are, the more people that are unwilling to do the thing, there's probably some like hidden opportunity there. And it doesn't take this crazy technical skill set to achieve.
And and what you're describing is someone that doesn't want to do a job. That's a cash cow job, right? So knocking doors, moving furniture. Can you think of two more grueling things mentally and emotionally? Like that's like the pits, right?
Yeah.
But if you create a culture and you create a financial reward and an intrinsic reward, all of a sudden those things become sources of great wealth. And so I think I love what you're doing. You help all your guys build wealth through their own little cash cow, right?
Yeah.
So I think you do a good job putting the end game in mind through the whole process.
Well, dude, I appreciate it. And I love what you got going on, dude. I love everything. And I want to talk more into your podcast, but just a little bit, you do your first deal. You realize, dude, I'm just like your first. You're kind of just ascended, dude, man. I've known you for a little bit, but I'm realizing more and more, dude, you got some guts. Like you're willing to just go freaking into the storm, which I think a lot of people underestimate. No one got there for free. Somebody had to say like, dude, I'm going to put mine up against yours. That's a piece of the puzzle. But as you're scaling out, now you're taking on investors, now you're analyzing and you have a pretty good understanding of this asset. And I think this asset is one that I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say like, I would hate to own a storage unit facility.
Right.
So walk us through a little bit. I think a lot of people would love to understand. You're professionally buying, acquiring, and value-adding storages now. What are some of the things on a basic macro level that you're like, dude, I know this about storage is the reason I love it, and these are some of the things I'm looking for?
Yeah, and at this point, I do the first deal, and it's like crack cocaine, right? Because I'm like, holy cow, the ROI on this thing. So you're investing in storage units for the cash flow. Like you're gonna make so much in cash flow. The equity, you're gonna pull out so much equity, and then the tax benefits. So just to rattle it off, just to dangle the carrot. This first facility, I bought the land for $250,000,
okay,
and another $100,000 in miscellaneous costs. Right, that thing spits off between $10,000 and $15,000 a month in cash flow.
Wow.
Then we have millions in equity. Then you remember I said $350. I got $450 in a tax break. So basically, more money, more cash than I even put in. I get to offset that. I get to offset $450 of taxes. So, you could see how it becomes way more fun than a single family home.
That's a freaking home run first deal, dude.
Yeah, no, it is. I can't lie that I worked hard, but I did get very fortunate. Yeah, I bought it in a good cycle. But the point is like, okay, now I'm hooked, and I now I hire a mentor, right? So now I pay AJ Osborne. He's like the top storage mind in the world to coach me. So now I'm getting a little bit more sophisticated. Now I hire a CEO. I pay someone a big percentage of my discretionary income because I know I need to go big, high level as fast as I can. Right.
That's cool.
Yeah. So now we're getting to like you can kind of almost I'm remembering all these epiphanies, right? I'm learning how to delegate, how to build a business, how to scale. And this asset class is so attractive because you're kind of in the glory days, like apartment buildings, for example, their majority, I think I won't, maybe I'll rattle off inaccurate statistics, but say they're like 80%, they're consolidated by the big money players, and only 20% of apartments are mom and pop. They own one or two complexes, right? With storage, it was actually flipped, where it was like 20% was consolidated by the public storage and extra space, and you had like 80% that was mom and pop.
Wow.
And what you're seeing is that right now is the glory days, where in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years,
it's going to be flipped.
Storage is all going to be pretty consolidated. So we're still in the glory days where we have this opportunity to go get it. And so that's the industry in a nutshell. And what I've found is that I don't want people to have to go through what I went through. I would rather they, maybe partner with us on the first deal, get their feet under them. Then they can take a resume to the bank and say, hey, I've done a deal with, with Ben or someone else. Now I'm going to show you our financial statements from our deal and use that to get my own deal or to do a deal with someone else. That's kind of one of my big mission statements, is to get everybody owning storage units.
I like that. That's cool. So when you guys partner with somebody, what are you looking for in an investor? Are you guys setting that up kind of as like a syndication model, or are you guys doing an ongoing fund? What's kind of like your modeling?
Yeah, we probably will do a fund, but right now we do syndication. So basically, we find people that want all the benefits, the cash flow, the tax benefits, the equity, and we partner with them. So we do all the work. We make it passive. We use our economies of scale. We have a call center and a property manager. So we're going to take a piece of the equity for putting the deal together and doing the work, but they're going to get a way better return than they could get on single family homes or the stock market or other investments they could make.
That's cool. And then along the way, it sounds like from what you're saying, which is crazy because most people won't do this, but it sounds like you're also willing to like open the playbook and let people see how you're doing it while you're doing it real time as an operating partner.
Yeah. And I think storage, you want to give away the playbook as much as you can, because what it does is it creates value and it builds opportunity, creates connection. So I am really trying to be approachable. Yeah. And I feel like that's something that as time goes on, you have to make the decision of what's the best use of your time. And so there's lots of things that I have to guard my time pretty close. But when it comes to storage and that specifically, I'm really trying to be generous with my time and try to create value for free, because I know that it'll come back around, and making relationships in the industry will build win-win situations.
I think that is, I just took a couple notes mentally here. I was typing some stuff, just a couple takeaways I just got from some of the things you said. First off, like circling a little bit back, but you just made some money, had a huge opportunity, had a big win. And the first thing you do is go like unload discretionary income to hire somebody else, which I don't think for everyone listening, like how big of a step in like a crazy mature business decision that is. But it's literally essential if you want to go to the levels that you're at and you want to do these things. Like everyone talks about it, but it's scary. Like, Zach, a mutual friend of ours, we were talking about it. Like people are so afraid to spend that money, but it's like, that's the paradox. Like you have to. And
Yes.
like that's the only way you get there. So I think for anyone running your stuff right now, doing what Ben's doing, and I think it also just segues into this thought I have, and you're such an embodiment of it. You clearly have an incredible abundant mindset in like belief in yourself and will to win. To go pay somebody like that, and then you go give your playbook, like you operate from this place and it works, and I think all the best people do it. That there's always more deals, there's always more connections. Like I'm just going to bring value to the ethers, and I believe the ethers will bring me value back.
It's a learned mindset, right? We're born with a fixed mindset, and we're raised with a fixed mindset, right? So when you start to think about giving away a piece of the pie, right? You have to realize that the pie will grow. And it's okay to give away the pie if you're going to grow, if everyone's going to be benefited, and you have to get really comfortable with that. You have to be smart and structure it well, and structure it where you can't lose, but you have to be willing to get in that mindset. And I think I have a funny rich uncle who he calls what you're describing as just sacrificing a little bit more blood on the altar of business. Right. So like you make money, you're living the good life, but you want to keep going. You don't want to stop. So you basically have to sacrifice more blood or money before you go through that cycle of rising up another level. Right. And then I almost think of it like bodybuilding, right? Like you get kind of beefy and fat, and then you have to lean up, and then you have to eat a little bit more, and you're fat for a while and you're bloated. The overhead's too high, right? And then you make it efficient. So you just keep biting off until you can finish what you're doing.
Dude, that's actually a really good, I've never had anybody relate specifically like that to bodybuilding, but it makes a lot of sense. And it is, right? There's just seasons of growth and seasons of trim and blowing up, but then measuring efficacy and getting really, really dialed on like revenue per employee and different metrics like that, knowing your numbers, especially in your investments. And
it's like, every single person, you have to make them a fit. You hire someone, you take on a new salary. I'll give you, this is my admin staff, these 9 people. So first it starts with like just these 2. And then you bite off their salary, then you make them efficient. And then you hire 2 more. And then all of a sudden your overhead is bad for a while. And you have to make them efficient before you can keep hiring. Right. So we started with I was the only one taking calls. Now we have like a dozen people that are on our phones. You know what I mean? So that's a little bit of just how it plays out in real life.
No, I think and I feel, and I could be wrong, but I think most people as they get in, that's one of the hardest things to understand. That's the whole why Rich Dad Poor Dad is such like a crazy book that blows people's minds, right? Because you just mentioned it. You're born with this fixed mindset. But what you're describing is literally every time I get excess resources, I want to go buy something or a person essentially with their job and get them to become another input of excess resources. Like I want to deploy every excess dollar to make an opportunity for faster return on dollars. But
absolutely,
that takes abundance, and it really is such a different lens to look at the world from. But I feel like as you own a business, it eventually develops into investing. Investing kind of like begats the other.
And here's the crazy part too is I learned all this in like my sophisticated real estate experience. But then I go back and I look at my simple service business, and let's say I can get a real estate asset that's going to be like a 20 or 30% on return. I'm like, oh, that's the best use for my money. Then I realize I could hire this person that would be like 1,000% on my money.
I love it.
It's like you start to invest. If you look at providing a career for someone where all of a sudden the people you're investing in have as good or better return than the actual assets you're investing in, all of a sudden you're starting to like almost revert back and realize like, oh, I could go do something better with that service business or start a new business or something like that. And it's really eye-opening once you do it with real estate, and then you realize the returns are so much better in business.
Dude, is actually a really, really good point. I feel I've had that same kind of like opening as you start a business and you're like, oh, I want to get into all the investments. And you start doing the investments and now you're so like return centric. Everything's about return and cash flow and kind of what can it create? And then you realize like, well, if I spent these same lumps of money, like there's actually all these opportunities inside what I'm really actually already probably better at that I can get better. But I feel that ebb and flow between your business and your investments is the only way to really get the insight. I don't know if there is another way to do it.
I think so, man. And like now I'm realizing that there's more opportunity out there. Like storage facilities are extremely coveted. Like everyone knows they're worth something, but moving companies, they're very like, it's a painful thing to do to run a moving company. Like there is so much, like you have to build such a stress tolerance to do that. And so what I'm finding is like, when people are going to sell these moving companies, no one wants them. Like their exit is so hard. And so like right now we bought one company, we're trying to buy a second. And what I'm realizing is I can get these on such a discount because no one is as equipped to run these service businesses that are so stressful and painful as I am, where these real estate assets, it's like, yeah,
everybody wants them.
I might be specially equipped to run those too, but there's a lot more qualified, motivated people that want those hard assets. So just what I'm really going through right now.
Yeah. So just actually speaking into that right now, you've got the storage stuff, which is a killer asset. Just like you said, everybody's trying to get into it. You have the moving business. Kind of moving forward, what is exciting and what do you think, like what are you spending more of your time developing right now?
Well, I get to do both, right? So typically I do my moving company executive meetings on Tuesday, and then I spend Wednesday and Thursday on storage executive meetings, and then Monday and Friday are kind of my flex days where I can do a lot of other, whatever the week demands. So, a lot of my personal time is spent on the storage business because that's my highest and best use. But I'm almost having like a revival of my excitement for the moving company because I'm learning so much about what can be done. I'm reading books like Traction and other exciting business books that just, I realize I'm leaving money on the table. And so I don't really have, a favorite, or people ask me like if I'm ever going to sell one and just do the other. It's not in the plan. And I like hiring out executives and just pushing these executives to go carve out a legacy for themselves, because we're trying to carve out positions big enough for other people's dreams within both companies.
Yeah. I love that. I think that it's interesting. There's very few people who I think could do what you're doing simultaneously. And it takes, just like you said, you have to want opportunities for others, which I don't think is everyone's main focus. I think a lot of times it's purely like financially driven. And I think that's where we kind of get into scarcity. For you, as you are growing and growing and growing, like progression now, you've got two businesses that are doing well. You've got opportunity in both. I think this is such an interesting psychology thing with money and kind of an introspect thing, but what is driving you now? You know what I mean? Like you've created a lot of opportunity, stability. Like what's kind of like the main focus right now when you're building these things?
Well, my main focus of my life is my relationships. So this game, you call your podcast The Game, right? It really can become, I don't feel like I'm working. Like I do hard things every day, but it's all my choice. So I don't ever have the right to be like resentful about something I do because it's something I've chosen. Like, and I think when you have that mindset shift, is like, dude, if you're not happy, it's 100% on you because you have the right to choose whatever you want to choose at this point. And so you ask kind of why I do it, and it's all for relationships. Like when I plan out my year, which I'm pretty disorganized, like in a lot of ways, which we could we could talk about like my psychology. Like I'm pretty all over the place. Like I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not organized. Like I'm kind of going everywhere all the time. But the one thing that is really organized is my planner. And I'm always going to put in relationships first. So like I'll plan out anything to do with any important relationship in my planner for the year, month, or week. And then I'll fill in business after that's full.
That's cool. That's a really good tip. So when you're doing that, just kind of digging, you're just kind of like going through your key 10 or whatever relationships you're like most concerned about fostering and making sure that time's carved for those.
Exactly. So I'm planning out date nights, temple days, obviously church and church callings, everything like that. I'm carving out time with my wife, time with my daughter, time with my family and my friends. And I don't even think about business until I feel like I have a reasonable amount of relationship stuff planned in my schedule. And then I fill the rest of it with business. And then I don't have any time left over for, I do waste time, but like I don't have any time for stupid stuff. It's all stuff that's at the top of my priority list.
I like that. That's good. I mean, just if more people adopted that one principle, we've talked about in different sessions all the time, planning it's such a game changer and it's such a simple thing and kind of monotonous thing, but it really does just make you project and evaluate like, holy crap, dude, there's a lot of time and I waste a lot more time than I'd like to acknowledge.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, dude, just in closing, I know I want to get you out. I know you got you got 2 companies, your family, doing all kinds of stuff. One last thing I would love just to get some of your thoughts on.
Sure.
In running 2 businesses, you learn a ton about, money management and obviously risk and assessment and what it all does. Now you have a family. So it's not just, Ben who gets to sleep in a box if everything goes down. Like you're pretty like aggressive in your business. Are there any lessons like in running your business in those financial principles? What have you learned in some of the things that you operate your home with just to protect the family, from the earnings and stability the business creates?
So more specifically kind of on like, what are things that we do in our home to keep our home together, or what do I do to protect our wealth?
Yeah, protect your wealth. Just make sure, because I'm kind of the same way. It sounds like, right? I would risk a lot in my business from the business itself being at detriment, maybe to go to the next level. And I would spend pretty aggressively in investments. However, I'm pretty conservative with like the base around what like my family needs. And I don't know, I think everyone's different, but just, are there any, lessons you've learned as you've run the businesses and the financial things that you now are like, dude, these are actually really effective for me to diversify and protect my wealth of my home?
Yeah, I think for me, I have contingency plans. I stay aggressive. So I'm not necessarily like, as I'm having more kids, I'm not getting less aggressive. I think that is something that I see a lot where people have 5 kids. They don't want to put anything on the line. Just so I make sure I have, exit strategies. I make sure I have a margin of stupidity. So almost like, okay, if this deal goes wrong, if this idea goes wrong, is there enough meat on the bone? Is there enough extra where I'll still be protected, right? So we pull out of deals all the time where it's like, man, we could force that. That would make us some money. That would be fun. That would help us hit our goals. But it doesn't have the margin of stupidity, or there's not enough to go around where, it's going to work out. So I always make sure I have enough cushion. I always make sure that I use lawyers. So, I hadn't had a lawsuit until like a year ago. And then I had like crazy, like just random stuff. And believe me, audience, I'm not like breaking the law. It's just when you go bigger, stuff finds you. People want a piece, right? So now I consult lawyers a lot more. And even with my friends and family, I have them write up our contracts to protect us, keep our relationship strong. So that ties right in with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
In protecting the family.
Dude, I think that one's so big because I think a lot of people make that mistake is on good friend or good family. Like, dude, we don't need the formality of this deal to be there. And in my opinion, I don't know it sounds like you're kind of the same boat. I'm like, dude, it's almost more necessary when the relationship is close so that there's no ifs, ands, or buts or lack of transparency. It's very clear and dialed and everyone's thought about it.
100%. Yep. And even with my best friend. So my best friend is the guy who I hired as CEO for my storage company. And, we're super tight. But when we said, hey, let's meet with a lawyer. I recruited him away from a very high paying job where if this goes wrong, like my best friend's on the line.
Yeah.
So I wanted to work with him. He wanted to work with me. So we basically just said like, yeah, let's go to the lawyer. And when we walked in, we were a little apprehensive, but when we walked out, we were like, so glad we did that. Now we can just not be looking over our shoulder. We can just go right to work, and we can work hard for each other, knowing that we both have a pathway to wealth and it's already fixed how it's going to go. So it's been an awesome learning life lesson to learn that.
Dude, that's cool. And I think that's one that follows you forever. And there's always like more and more room. And that's a really, really good tip for people to take on. Even in the smallest business matters to the biggest ones, it's better to consult and get all the details framed out, and it's never going to hurt your relationship. It's always going to protect them. Just in closing, Ben, you run a podcast called Beyond Net Worth. I love the mission of it. It's a lot of similar stuff to the money game. We just want to help people develop their mindset, relationship, psychology, obviously technical skill sets like yours with storage investing, and expose them to things. But for you, you've had a ton of people that you've interviewed, successful people that have made a lot of wealth, done a lot of different things. If you have a couple takeaways you can share with people from running, what is, beyond the net worth? What is the extra attachment things that you see that you want to implement in your life, or you see the best people that are kind of like their principles?
Yeah, great question. We have so much. We're just so passionate about this topic because we call it Beyond Net Worth, because the reality is that we only bring on guests who we respect, right? Who it really doesn't matter to me if you have money, if your family life sucks, or if you're a bad person, right? Or if you had to cheat, lie, or steal to get it, right? So the whole concept is focusing on both at the same time, then you can impress me, right? Then if you're that type of person that can build wealth and be a good person, a good dad, a good husband, it's like, now you have my attention. So in talking to those people, we see a lot of the same lessons, right? Like integrity, right? No quit. I think really what it boils down to is being willing to get back up, right? And I'm a sports guy. I never did any official boxing, but I think about those kind of sports like fighting. And I think the best fighters are the ones that can take punches and get back up, right? Because a lot of people can throw a tough punch, but psychologically getting back up, taking punches, being willing to grind through a lot of things and having a high stress tolerance, high pain tolerance for the bigger picture, that's what I see as a common thread through these successful people that have built wealth and kept their families together at the highest level.
Dude, that's really, really cool, man. I think I love that mission. I'm glad I got to come out. I feel esteemed that you thought that of me. But dude, it's a pleasure to know you. I'm stoked that we get to continue. I look forward to getting to spend more time at different events with you and seeing what you do. I love the success you've had. We're grateful you could come on. Just where can people keep track of you? What do you want people to know or follow you on? And where can they get more insight on your expertise in storage and investing?
Yeah, and that's follow me. Ben Gottfredson is my personal, or if you're not interested in pictures of my daughter, just Big Storage Ventures. That's our business page. That's where we talk about the storage information. And it's true. I want people to reach out. I want the call. I want the DM. So reach out, DM us, and then we'll set up a time for a call. If owning storage units is something you want, or just general entrepreneurship, I just love to do it. I'm still at that point where I want to talk about it. I want to learn. I want to connect. I'm still hungry. So reach out.
Love it. Love it. And then your podcast, Beyond Net Worth, Apple, Spotify, people need to go download and listen to that as much as possible, guys. He has tons of great guests on. And like you said, this dude is just, honestly, since I've met, he's just a person of incredible integrity. If you go and you see guests on his show, other than, no plug to me, you can know, like, those are people you should go follow and plug into their whatever it is that they've got going on. Because Ben, that's the kind of guy he is.
Thanks, man. Yeah, listen to the podcast. It's we do have a lot of. I've been amazed about the kind of people we've been able to ask who have said yes. So go ahead and subscribe to that too.
Love it. Well, Ben, we appreciate you coming on. For all you guys, make sure to follow, check out all his stuff, and we'll catch you guys next time on The Money Game.
Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on social media.
Real money. Real money? Money is the answer.
Y'all be cool. And we'll see you next time on The Money Game.
Money. Yes!